What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about
To be that time. Okay. We should be live, everybody. Welcome to another Theory for Theory. All right, my guest today is Joyboy Theories. Okay, so, I mean, probably one of the more namely people for Theory because he has theory in his name.
Oh.
So this is yeah. I mean, most people in here, I'm sure you know who he is, and if you don't, his links are below. But man, you've been a staple for a long time, man. And we actually haven't had, we've had some back and forths on Twitter, and we talked a little bit at the last Reverie. But this is our first time, really. I think where we're gonna like actually have some time to, chat and everything. But I don't know what your journey is. How long have you been with One Piece? When did you? How long have you been with the community? Like when did you get weekly?
Yeah. Well, first off, I appreciate you having me on here. This is super cool. I've been looking forward to like a one-on-one conversation with you for a long time. Seriously, like a long time. I didn't feel like the Reverie was kind of like the right place for that for obvious reasons. There's so much going on, but actually being here, like, I really appreciate that. But yeah, I first caught up to One Piece at in the middle of Impel Down. That's when I first caught up to One Piece. But at that time, I was in school, so there was a little bit of forum activity where I'd visit when I caught up to chapters weekly, and I got up through Marineford. I wouldn't say that I was the most active person. It was more so just, listening to what other people were saying, because I didn't know anybody who liked One Piece.
I dealt with that.
Yeah. So after that, I was in college, because I'm almost 30 now. It's like crazy. Like time flies. But I went to college after that around like 2010. And so
here, they're saying your audio is a little low, so I've got to up that a bit. Let me see. Let's do a test. Tell me how that's going, guys. We did get a super chat here. Joyboy plus Troyboy.
Am I bringing the hockey? Or is am I being overshadowed?
certified drip.
About to get spicy. Shout out to Keenan B with the big flex heat on feet. Look, bro, he's got the heat on feet, bro. Yeah. Let's see. So, all right. So now they're saying, perfect now. All right. Appreciate you, Keenan. Thanks for being here, man. So, Joyboy was just telling us that he's been current since Impel Down. And
somewhere around Impel Down, and then I took a break. Yeah, I took a break in Fishman Island. I think a lot of people took a break at Fishman Island. You kind of know that you reached a high point, and so it's like, all right, I'm gonna coast for a little bit, and then I came back in Dressrosa, where that was where I really started to put down my thoughts on the series into words, because at that point in time, I would say like 2009, 2010. I don't think the theory community was quite as strong. That was a trend that started to pick up around that time, but I wasn't necessarily involved in. So it wasn't until like 2013, 2014, something like that, I was on the forums. And there's a lot of drama at the time, where they had like conglomerate sites that would take theories from AP forums, from Oro Jackson, from wherever it might be, and just like post those theories on there. And at the time I was like, well, I'm making these and they're just copying and pasting them, so why don't I just join YouTube? And I never thought much would come from it. Little did I know.
Yeah.
Surprise! Like, I like this. This is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, look at those W's in the chat. Appreciate that, guys. Yeah, man. I mean, my journey with One Piece is long. It's like I started with the series in 2002. I was one of the original admins of AP forums, and I've been current since Skypea. But
that's crazy to me.
I did a little bit of YouTube back in like 2005, 2006, but I was using stuff from the anime, and Toei was even worse back then. So my whole channel got nuked, and I basically I stopped with the YouTube stuff, just focused on life. When Impel Down was around, let's see, I think I was probably in college at the time, and Fishman Island definitely was that was a hard time in the community because we were so hyped for, the time skip and everything like that, and then the pacing just seemed like it, it felt like Thriller Bark again, which you weren't weekly for that, but that was a really tough time in the community because we just came off the high of Enies Lobby, and I saw a lot of people, especially in AP forums, kind of back away during Thriller Bark, but where we are right now in the story, which I feel is probably a good segue also, is this reminds me of everything that's happening now with Joy Boy, with Luffy and everything. When the chapter for Gear Second came out, right? I saw the meme that Artur put up. I'm something of a rubber expert myself. And
I retweeted that, by the way.
What's that?
I said I retweeted that. By the way.
I retweeted that too. Yeah. but it reminds
this might be slightly factual.
when the Gear Second chapter came out, it was the same thing. Everybody thought they were a rubber expert. By the end of that week, before the next chapter, which I'm pretty sure Oda did take a 2-week break on that one too. It was everybody knew what the word vulcanization meant. Really, that was every thread, everything was just all vulcanization.
I knew that all along.
Yeah. So, and people have been talking about the natural state of rubber, what Luffy could do for a very long time, but this this stuff that's going on, man, it's so neat. I'm gonna have a video. Hopefully I can get it out tomorrow. I shot it earlier in the week where I went through the story and I found all of the foreshadowing for resin in the story, and basically the archipelago is just one giant exposition arc, I feel, for what Luffy's going to be able to do. And
it wouldn't surprise me. I this resin thing is new to me. I don't know who first theorized it or whatever. It's hard to keep track of that sort of stuff.
I'm sure we can go to AP forums and find something from 15 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, but it absolutely blew up, and I started to look into it. And it's like, wait a second. Things like Oda's favorite panel, or one of his favorite panels, being you wouldn't expect, like an introduction to Sabaody and mention of resin. It doesn't stand out to you as oh, this makes sense, And then you have this moment in the chapter where, especially with the Gorosei's conversation just before this, he's clearly leading our thoughts, at least, even if it's not true, that Luffy's devil fruit may possess capabilities that you couldn't expect, not to mention the end of the chapter where weird things are happening, So it's level of hype is unbelievable because we've read the whole story, and this we still weren't prepared.
Oh man, yeah, man, and but my favorite thing about that panel is everybody wants to talk about Robin wiping the resin onto Usopp and saying that it's sticky, and I mean, I think that's going to factor in as well. But the more important thing is, and I mean, this is spoilers for everybody that'll in my community that'll end up watching the video that I'm going to put out also, but Papagoo just being this gigantic lore dumper is crazy to me because he's the one that explains that Sabaody is covered in this unique natural resin, right? And there's actually a Reddit post that was made by community member Chad Ocho, all right, who actually is legitimately a rubber expert. All right, so everybody that wants to be a rubber expert, this man said that he actually works with rubber, polymers, resin, all of this stuff. That's his job. So he put a thing on Reddit where he went into all of that stuff, and that's so that's cool. And there's a lot of really viable stuff here. But Papagoo, man, he told us about. But my favorite thing that he said was, "What if the archipelago in the same way that Punk Hazard was affected by Kuzan and Sakazuki, was its environment was changed because of Luffy. Well, not because of Luffy, sorry, because of Joy Boy, because of the original user awakening of the Gomu Gomu no Mi. And I think there's a lot of people in the community that are against this idea of resin because they're like, oh, but it's not rubber, and it's like, but it is. Like, the resin is what makes rubber. It's, you know, there's so many different factors and so many ways that the story can go. It's just the natural form of it. It's the base model.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you know, so again, a not expert trying to pretend like he is an expert, you know, but I've dug into it as much as I can. I feel like the way that I make sense of it, and you feel free to correct me if you think that I'm wrong, but you know, there's like rubber or latex is created. It's a substance that's produced, a liquid substance that's produced when you damage a rubber tree, right? Mm-hmm. Resin is a liquid substance that's produced when you damage pretty much anything else. You know, so in a sense they're the same thing, but at the same time resin is more encompassing. It can cover more things. There's more things that it can do. Rubber is kind of a, you know, obviously you have processing, right? Like vulcanization, you have natural versus you know, artificial rubber, for instance. But you know, like rubber is one thing, but then you can take things that are very similar to it and change the physical properties of them in so many different ways to be useful. And that's where I feel like the fruit, if this is true, has the most potential. Because, you know, it's like for instance, I think about, you know, I think that Gear 4th was created because of hockey. Like, Luffy made a breakthrough from hockey. But, like, what if, and this is just realistically speaking, what if there's limitations to rubber itself, which prevented Luffy from blowing up his muscles? And so then something like resin, right, where you can change the properties of your body in subtle ways, all of a sudden make something like that possible. Exactly. Harden it. Exactly. Yeah. Harden it, softer, sticky, you know, anything physical that you can imagine. And it would also, you know...
Go ahead. No, just to jump in there real quick, but like Papagu spends a lot of time talking about the durability of the resin. So, you know, the hardening and all of that, that's what's going to allow Luffy to go up against enemies in the future, like a Kainu, I think. Where he'll be able, if he's able to produce resin, similar to how Katakuri can produce mochi and, you know, Mr. 3 can produce wax. Like, if that's part of the awakening, Luffy will be able to create, like, different moves. He'll be able to use his imagination to steal from more enemies that he's fought, which he does all the time. You know, where he'll be able to create resin walls like Mr. 3, resin swords, resin mallets, turn Snake Man into a literal snake. Man. You know, one of my favorite things about this that actually really blows my mind and gives me chills, right, is the fact that the resin is what is used to coat ships. And I believe wholeheartedly that what Rayleigh took 3 days to do, the next time that the Straw Hats have to make a quick getaway, go to Fishman Island, Luffy's going to be able to do that in 3 seconds and coat the entire ship, and they're going underwater.
I mean, that's just one of those things that, you know, nobody thinks about at the time. There's a solution to a problem that we haven't yet even encountered. And that's just, me, it's genius, you know? Being like 5 steps ahead of the curve. But, you know, I really don't have too much to say to this because this is one of those things. I like theories, but this is creative. You know what I mean? This is like purely from Oda's imagination. There's no doubt that if this is true, he's going to blow us out of the water with how he's able to use it. And really the focus is just simply...
Or blow us into the water.
Because the idea...
Luffy would be
exactly.
He could
true.
No, seriously, like this. Why people always say, why are the Gorosei upset about this? If Luffy coats himself like a ship, he'll be able to go underwater and swim. In Fishman Island, Caribou calls it a diving suit when they put the bubbles on. That's just foreshadowing to me that Luffy's going to be able to fight underwater now, without any limitations when he stretches his arm outside of the bubble, because his entire body will be the bubble.
And I just hope so. I really hope so. I mean, just this is one of those things where, you know, I've talked to some people who were kind of, you know, the chapters, you know, like things that we expected. you know, it's like for this, it blows my mind, right? There's information overload, you know, for how this can potentially be taken where I wasn't prepared for.
And shout out to Chad Ocho, our rubber expert. He's in the chat. He said, thanks for the shout out again. There's a video in the works to better explain
Don't call me
rubber.
out, man. Just stay quiet.
Chad, if you're doing a video, definitely put it in the Discord and all of that. Like, you know, and then Novum, member for 10 months. Said, shout out Joyboy Theories, aka Luffy Theories. This is hype. And my guy Maxo is in here. He said, we can already see how the physical effects of hockey can augment Luffy's Devil Fruit, but all forms of hockey are still willpower. Feel like Devil Fruit users clash wills with their fruits to advance their powers.
That was another interesting thing that I talked about, that I talked with somebody about recently. How you know, Luffy's body is rubber, right, throughout the story, supposedly. And it's like, well, it's pretty consistent, right? It doesn't change its nature in any way. And so you wonder what the effect of willpower on that. Like, Luffy knowing that his fruit is rubber or believing that to be true made his body rubber. But then maybe there's, you know, like his will to win fights has sort of overcome that, where you see slight variations in the power. Like, for instance, when Kaido mentions, like, rubber can't do that, you know, with Snake Man. It's like Luffy's willpower sort of ignoring the limitations of his devil fruit previously. It's like, in order to win, look, this is what my fruit could actually do. And so once you actually realize it, the potential there from that point is sky high, I think.
Savage.
I am totally with you on that. Shout out to the 500 people in here. Thank you for being here, guys. Now, I'm sort of the belief now that the reason that Luffy is able to stretch and move his body in this way is basically because he has all of this resin liquid latex inside of him, and he's actually just manipulating that, and it is stretching his body. So I think if we ever get this explanation, it would make sense if he's just producing the resin in the same way that, like I said, Mr. 3 produces wax, Katakuri produces mochi, but it expels, right? Luffy hasn't figured out how to, and this goes back to the archipelago as well, he hasn't figured out how to make the tree breathe. He hasn't figured out how to make his arms breathe. The ground of the archipelago just breathes, and then the bubbles emerge. So once Luffy figures out the breath of his fruit, I think he'll be able to expel these these bubbles, this resin, and everything like that. But I'm hoping that I mean, I've been waiting for this since Annie's Lobby, and I bring this up a lot in the community, but I've been waiting for Luffy to, you know, use his power to turn himself into a giant, to just produce enough resin within himself, and now harden it, you know, and then he's a giant. I need the gigantification in the story to apply to Luffy.
Hope so. You know, I guess right now all we need is, like, the right villain for that, you know, because I doubt that he's gonna go Godzilla, unlike the Gorosei, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I could see him grabbing a giant dragon out of the sky as a giant.
Oh yeah. Is that a prediction?
Hey, everything's a prediction. Let me run through some super chats real quick. Lucy B said, "Whatever theory we come up with, Oda will still surprise us all. That's why I love Oda." You know, one of my favorite things I say on the channel is, I love it when I'm right. I love it even more when I'm wrong. Oda, surprise me, Oda. Lucy said, "Joy Boy, do you think there's a water devil fruit?"
No, I don't think so. But there could be things that are very close to it. I think that Oda can probably break that and get away with it.
I got a big super chat from one of the channel goats here. Shout out to my guy Ty. He said, "Sorry I'm late, Captain. I always tell you, man, you're always on time." But that's his quote. I watched tons of reviewers, and the Yonkos of YouTube all possess a heightened attribute. Joy Boy is a writer.
Savage.
Insights he shares has me dying to read his work. Hope your dad's doing better, man. Ranger tickets for all the Savage crew. and you're added to the list, JB. So my guy
Oh,
Ty,
man,
he
thank
works
you.
for the Rangers.
Savage.
You want to get Rangers tickets? He's that's,
No, I
that's-
live in Texas. I live in Texas too.
So
You know,
he's in
I
Texas.
really
Ty,
appreciate
link
that.
up with Joy Boy. You know, get those tickets, man. Get those seats.
Yeah. I really like talking about that though. I know that's not necessarily on topic, but I like thinking about how all the YouTubers or like personalities in the community fit into their niche. I think that that's fascinating, and you can see, and I love this. You know, it's like if I wasn't here as just a person who enjoys One Piece, you can find the right person that sort of embodies the things that you get out of the series. And so, you know, he's talking about me writing. I've been writing my book now for a year, and this has been really fun and
Savage.
also a challenge because, you know, it's I didn't know as well. But as I've done that, it's sort of incorporated in my channel as well. It's definitely one of the things that I'm most proud of, you know, to share my sort of discoveries, not only about the story of One Piece, but seeing things from a different lens that I didn't before. And I feel like this is an appropriate conversation with you too, because I haven't actually talked to you about this, but you got like Writers Guild on your Twitter. It's like, whoa, whoa, big timer, you know, that's, but yeah, no, I appreciate that, Ty, so much.
Yeah, no, I you know, even when Ragnar was here, he was talking your book up because I guess he's read some of it. You've been sharing some stuff with him, going over that with him.
Yeah, no, I'm bouncing. What I want
something.
ideally. Yeah, what I want ideally, you know, I am reading it with Ragnar. Is I know that some of the, not everyone, but I look up to Brandon Sanderson in particular because that's currently my favorite fantasy series. It's a fantasy book. He has a writing group. Of course, he has an official writing group, as in they all went to college for it. So there's 5 or 6 people that, you know, they know what the hell they're doing. You know, those extra perspectives help alpha readers essentially. You know what I mean? And Ragnar, I'm sure a lot of people know about Ragnar. Ragnar is the ultimate idea man. Like, he revels in the idea of ideas. So, you know, but yeah, but absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, you know, I'm a writer myself, and you know, like that's, you know, I mean, I'm not a novel writer, you know, I mean, I'm thinking more in the perspective of like films, screenplays, and things, but I mean, story structure in a general sense is still hitting a lot of the same beats in novels and film or television, you know, I mean, like even, you know, not necessarily adapting a novel into a movie, never a good idea. I do love that they're doing, you know, televised novels now so that it can actually all breathe and grow over stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you want to, I mean, that's, you know, entirely up to you. If you want to share anything about your book or tease or anything, by all means, you know, I'm down to hear about it. And because I don't know anything.
No,
about
I'm not going to say anything.
All right.
You know, I'm still working. I'm still working on my hook.
And that's tied. That's totally, you know, that's why I prefaced it. If you want, all right.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's just it's fantasy, but it is, you know, the essence of it captured in words. I don't think that I can do without revealing things that I would rather not. You know, and so, but I hope that. When it gets finished, and it will get finished, it's going a little bit slower, but, you know, I'm just slow in general. This is true in all things. I think about things a lot, but, you know, when it gets done, man, I hope that everybody gives it a shot to go at least try and read it. And I promise you that at the very least, it'll be as good as I can possibly make it.
and that's awesome, man. You know, and that's, I think that's a great thing. I think that your community, I'm sure, will gravitate to it, and it's a great way to, you know, use your platform to, you know, like get what you want out of life. Like if you're trying to write, man, that's, you know, well, you're literally doing it, and that's the biggest step to it. So I'm excited for it, and you know, I definitely want to know when it's all ready and done.
Well, you better believe, man. That's what we call free advertisement. If you like it, free advertisement, not opportunity, not wasted.
Exactly. Let's see a couple of these super chats. Emil Diaz, member for 11 months, said, could he transform the island into resin as well? I'm thinking that it's possible. I mean, I really want size manipulation to factor into Luffy. Like, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm just stuck on this gigantification thing. You know, it's so prevalent with so many people. Vegapunk, the Gorosei, you know, Big Mom, like everything, like it has to play a role. And if this fruit is able to alter the size of things, like if Zunisha was a regular sized elephant at some point, but Joy Boy was able to balloon it into a giant elephant, like that's something that just makes me think, okay, now we're dealing with a very dangerous fruit.
I think that's a big question right now. How do you make the fruit legendary? You know, I mean, we can see how it could be powerful individually, but legendary. That's the next step.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, you know, with this resin thing, I'm really on the idea that it defies the water curse. If you know how to use it, you'll be the freest man on the seas, because you can go underwater, and as we've seen in Sabaody, you can also go into the sky with it with the bubbles. So, Bike Vanilla said, here's some tax refund money for the most savage YouTuber, but you can only spend it on drip. All right.
Savage.
Magdeal said, love you guys, keep the theory videos coming. Tell me how I bought a cheap dying bonsai tree from Home Depot to keep it from dying, and it turns out it was a rubber tree. The universe is talking. See, One Piece is in all things. DJ Red Comet 369. This stream is a dream come true. This is all caps, my guy. Always with the caps. Love it. Thank you, Captain Randy, Detroit, and Joy Boy, the two best prognosticators who trust Oda's creative direction and source manga. Hashtag Savage Pirates for life. Let's see. Oh, lost the stuff here. The Last Orphan. If you've read or seen Yu Yu Hakusho, do you think we are about to see Oda's spin on Yusuke versus Sensui? Feels pretty similar to me. I'm in the middle of a rewatch of Yu Yu, and I'm only at the I just finished Dark Tournament, and then I've kind of stopped. I need to get back into further with it, because I honestly don't even remember the Yusuke versus Sensui fight, because I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 when I was first watching the series.
Yeah, I was like 9. Yeah, fun fact on that, actually, that played back in the day on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if I could watch Adult Swim. So anytime my dad went out, you know, to go do something, I would go into his room and turn on the TV and go to Adult Swim to go watch. And at the time, what was on was Yu Yu Hakusho. And I felt so rebellious at the time.
I remember the very first Adult Swim. I remember staying up, watching it. They had Cowboy Bebop there, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm pretty sure they had home movies, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It was a good time, you know, because I was like, I was entering my teenage years, and I wanted something that was just a little
Trigun.
Yeah, Trigun, Big O. Yeah, that was all part of the original lineup. Yeah, we're taking it back, man.
Yep. Yep. I'm telling you.
All kids out of the pool. Let's see, Grizzly Adams said, people have been talking about vulcanization for years, but seem to overlook the perfect opponent for that to finally happen against Akainu. See, what I want to see happen now with Akainu is if Luffy is able to, you know, basically turn himself into a giant toy also by creating this resin and hardening it, I think it would be as effective as Mr. 3 was against Magellan. So I think that Luffy will be able to harden his hand and be able to punch Akainu's lava and just continually, like, drop that if it melts or whatever, and he's not going to be able to actually get any physical damage.
Feel about Blackbeard, though, you know, because Blackbeard negates the fruit powers. So you think Haki alone is going to be difference maker there for Luffy, or?
Well, I mean, I think that the best aspect of that is that all of this is to grow his devil fruit, to grow his abilities, to grow his Haki. But when he fights Blackbeard, he's going to have to throw that all out of the window, and it's really just going to come down to how strong has Luffy become, and it's just going to be fists against fists. So
earthquakes.
Right, yeah. Fists against fists.
Little
and earthquakes.
one-sided.
Yeah. So,
Savage.
Maxo said another little theory. Maybe this resin fruit helped him handle/expel the poison from his body and impel down. That's probably a pretty good segue, because now that I have you here, one of the big things that I wanted to get into, I was actually going to hit you up after the Grim Reaper chapter. I was like, I want to talk to Joyboy about this, because I talk a lot about the different aspects of I get into a lot of the mythology around it, and I know that you're a very you're a big proponent of #ghost piece, and the idea that the fire festival is all of I'll let you dictate your own thing about this, but I think there's a lot of stuff to be said just about mythology, Shintoism, Buddhism, even Christianity, Catholicism, and just religion within One Piece, that's all kind of culminating into this idea of the underworld, the Grim Reaper. And I was thinking about this very specific scene that Maxo brought up about, expelling the poison. And I mean, maybe I'm off base here, but when I was thinking about all of the religious stuff that's in One Piece, like we even have Kuma holding a Bible, Mihawk has a cross, right? We have 3D, 2Y, in Messianic religions, the story of Jesus, he dies for the sins of his people, gets put into a cave, and then 3 days later he is risen, right? But specifically in Impel Down, when that Magellan fight happened, that was on the second day after being flown by Kuma, right? And then here he comes out of this cave on the third day after, after basically nearly dying to Magellan. And I just think that that's one of those things that Oda had to have put in there as a cheeky thing. And it ties into Go ahead, man.
Go ahead, sorry.
No. I take over, man. Talk about Ghost Piece, bro.
Yeah. So it's, you're thinking about it sort of in religious terms, and I feel like they're very appropriate. But to even turn it into story terms, the hero's journey, right? That's what a lot of these mythos, they share certain things, and there's lots of literature about that. It's the hero's journey, and it's one of those things where Oda's kind of obvious about it, that One Piece is, it follows very closely the hero's journey. Luffy won't acknowledge it. He's not a hero. He won't share his meat, but he is. That's his story. His story is the story of the hero. And so you can see throughout the story, like Joseph Campbell's A Man of a Thousand Faces. There's One Piece is designed with this in mind, probably to a level that I'm not familiar with other than like Star Wars, in terms of how closely it follows. When you look at all the steps of and obviously not all stories have to share these steps or whatever, but One Piece has a lot of them. And in some cases, I think that they repeat, so it's a little bit convoluted, but you can absolutely see them. Like, you head out into, the new world, right? For the first time, it's crossing the first threshold is what it is, which is, we've gone out into the world of the unknown, the magic, where you don't know the rules of this place. And then the first thing that Luffy does is he goes into the belly of the whale, which is yet another step, which is a metaphor that Joseph Campbell, it means things under the surface, but in One Piece, it's quite literal. They literally go into the belly of the whale, the belly of Laboon. And so, speaking of, to get this on track to Ghost Piece, and this through religion, through stories of heroes, going to the underworld, visiting the underworld, is one of the most common things, probably the most common thing that
Dante's
happens in all of
Inferno is just Impel Down.
And you can see that with Impel Down. It's not literal in that case.
Yeah. Well, it's never.
Sorry,
It's never literal. Oh yeah, no. People in the chat have been talking about the chickens and stuff. It doesn't matter.
I bet. Yeah. It is what it is. It is what it is. It bothers me, damn it, but okay. But no, so but Impel Down is not literal. It's like it's figurative. Place isn't actually hell, but it's hell. But you could. I'm not saying that it will, but Oda could take it that far. We know that the underworld is a place that actually exists. Brook has visited there.
Exactly.
He's confirmed its existence, and now it's like, okay, well, you're starting to get into some of the big philosophical religious concepts of the One Piece world that seem actually exist. Like when someone dies, what happens to them, and this relates to a lot of other things that Oda's hinted at, like the will of D, inherited will, things of that nature. But it's like well, Brook died and then came back, so his soul visited a place, and then we have an arc here in Wano where at first when it's introduced, you're not sure what Oda's going to make of it, but as you get further along, it's like, wait a second, the Fire Festival is a festival to communicate with the dead. That's the point. And so as they send their little lanterns up, I hope we're really close. I hope I'm right. I also hope that it's even better than I expect. But it's like you kind of expect a payoff at some point in time. We've devoted all this time to it. They're sending lanterns up. They hope that their wishes, their dreams, their wills reach their ancestors. What I'm looking for is some kind of confirmation. It's like it can be taken in a lot of different ways, but I just hoped by the conclusion of this, we learn that those people that died in Wano and people close to the main characters of the story, because all the flashbacks, people die. We learn that they're listening and they're watching. That's like, if it can be broken down into like the simplest terms, that's what it is. But like the creative aspect of that, it could be so many things, and I'm really excited about that. But and Oda's been teasing it. I mean, I literally made a video that is over an hour, and I had to cut a lot of stuff because there's just, if this is true, the whole arc, it's foreshadowing. Like things like Kokeshi dolls. Like, why are Kokeshi dolls in the story? So much more could be taken from it. Why did Oda decide to include this? Oh, the lore on the Kokeshi doll is that it's.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the lore on the Kokeshi dolls is that it relates to the souls of deceased children. That's one of the theories, that the lore's about what those things are, what it could be. And then you have Odin appear multiple times, as if Oda's saying, maybe.
Right. Are we going to get the real Odin? So
we're gonna get the real Odin. And the other part of this that I really like is things like Yamato. Yamato wants to become Odin, right? Yeah. But like, things like possession. It's a conversation right now with Joyboy. I'm not sure if that's the same thing, but it's like is it possible that someone like Yamato, or anybody really, or that she knows that Odin's going to appear? Basically, he's dead, right? But she's read his journal and she knows that he's going to appear again, and she wants to be that person. She wants to be Odin when he appears. Things like that. It's like that's the only way currently that I really see Yamato paying off.
That's interesting. And I had a comment that brought up the line, I'm not going to die, partner. And it's it's this whole idea of like, is there going to be some aspect of return of these characters as spirits in some way? I mean, there's been a theory for years that, like, when Luffy gets the laugh tail, he's going to be able to have a conversation with the spirit of Roger or something like that. Now, I don't necessarily know if I want to buy into all of it, but there are mythological applications to this stuff, and I really go into this because and I've been talking about it for a while, and I really just need to make the video, but I know that if I make the video is going to be over an hour long, talking about, and it's going to be a lot of work, but like talking about every mythological application and like reference in Wano. I mean, there's so many, but lately a lot of stuff has been pointing to, just the creation of the main Shinto deities, right? And it starts with Izanagi and Izanami. And Izanagi and Izanami were two gods that basically created all of the other kami and like everything that
Savage
comes about in Shintoism. And Izanami gives birth to a fire kami, shrivels up, dies. I mean, it could be a reference to Rouge giving birth to Ace in a sort of way as well. But more than anything, she goes to the underworld, and Izanagi goes down there to find Izanami. And when he finally meets her, she's basically a zombie, for lack of a better words. Like, she's covered in maggots and all this stuff, and she's trying to keep him in the underworld. And it's not a good thing. He leaves, he locks the cave behind. She says she's going to kill 1,000 people a day. He says, I'm going to make 1,500 people a day. He goes and, like, he relaxes in this spring after having that, terrible, thing. He thought he was going to bring his wife back. So he wipes his face. From his left eye, comes one god. I don't remember specifically which is which, but, from his right eye comes another, and then from his nose comes another. I remember the nose is Susanoo. Susanoo is the god of storms and seas. The D will surely cause another storm. Luffy wants to become the king of the seas, so it's like, it seems like he's an avatar for Susanoo. Amaterasu is the goddess of the sun and the dawn. And then you have Tsukuyomi, who is the god of the moon, right? And I think that there's some parallels there with Momonosuke. Yamato was literally kept in Amanowato cave, which is a cave that in Shintoism belief, like, Amaterasu gets mad at Susanoo after an argument that they have. It's deeper than that. But, and then she locks herself away for years, and the world sort of starts to crumble until they're able to trick her out of the cave with a mirror, that there's a goddess that's, better than you. And then she comes out and they lock the cave. Now, so I think that Amaterasu in some cases is an example of Yamato, and that whole mirror thing could eventually become a parallel that Oda's trying to draw, which I'm fully expecting, where it's like, you don't need to be Odin, right? And that mirror thing could be as simple as Yamato seeing Momonosuke in his non-dragon form, now a literal avatar of Odin, because Shinobu basically said he looks exactly like Odin. So if there already is an Odin, then Yamato won't need to be Odin, and they'll be able to be their own character. Now, if what you're saying about Odin coming back to life, not coming back to life, but the spirit arriving here in the same way that this could be a Joy Boy possession in Luffy, then there could be a moment where the real Odin, before, going back to the underworld or anything like that, says, you don't need to be me, just be you. And then we can get that growth for Yamato. And I think that something along those lines has to happen before Yamato joins the crew.
Yeah, well, the main thing that I want to take out is I pay attention to when Oda is absurdly creative, right? I tend to find that absurdly creative things don't happen unless it is important to the story, like things that wouldn't occur to other people. And so Yamato wanting to become Odin is one of those things. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to happen, right? Whether Yamato becomes Odin or anyone else. But something from that concept needs to be used. And it works just the same as if Yamato knows in the journal, like, hey, Odin's supposed to appear, but it's not Odin. It's Momonosuke. It works just as fine. But as long as something comes from it, the payoff there, incredible. And of course, with Momo's story, he's just fighting constantly with how he views his father and how he views himself. And I think that when we go back and we reread the arc after it's done, you're going to see that a lot of the things that Momonosuke believes and a lot of the things that he says is actually what Odin would say. Of course, there may be different confidence levels, there may be different ability levels, but he was talking about, like, well, is it make me a coward if I just want to save everyone? And I think about Odin dancing for, throwing away his pride for years just to save people, and so there's so much that can be brought to the surface from there. I know.
Oh yeah, no, and that's Momonosuke is a character that was not well liked for many years, and I finally think that the community is starting to turn around on Momonosuke, and it's necessary, because Momonosuke, in my mind, there's not a shred of doubt that they got on the ship at the end of this and travel with the Straw Hats. So
I hope so.
Yeah.
My theory on this, just to interject for a second,
by all means,
that I've been running with for a long time. Shout out to my good friend Roger. But he The idea is that Luffy's crew is going to reflect Roger's crew, and so Odin joined Roger's crew along with his wife and 2 retainers. And so you have Momonosuke, Tama as an 8-year-old, just the same as Momonosuke. Of course, we're now curious about their ages, right? So I don't want to really get into that at all.
Well,
but,
just to jump in there, I've been Tama for Nakama for a very, very, very long time. So I'm right with you on there.
So we're on the same wavelength. So we got Momo and Tama, in-game couple, power couple. And then we have
once Momo is aged down again. Once Momo's aged down again,
we're not talking about this, okay? We're in a not weird way.
Yeah.
Somehow make it happen. And then the retainers, right? Yamato can be a retainer. For me personally, and this is just my perspective, I shouldn't say want. I believe Momonosuke is going to be in the crew before Yamato. If I had to rank them, like you had to choose, would choose Momonosuke first. I think Momonosuke is more vital than Yamato is. I think Yamato could join in other capacities as her own captain potentially, or Grand Fleet or whatever. So Momonosuke is first. So you have Momonosuke. If Yamato can't be a retainer, then I don't think it's going to be Yamato is going to join. But as it stands now, I could imagine Yamato as a retainer, and then I imagine Carrot. So then everyone's theories basically come true. Oda's like, hey, you wanted this? Carrot for Nakama, Yamato for Nakama, Momonosuke for
Oda
Nakama,
just becomes Oprah.
Just all of them, And I know that people have some problems with this because they're like, oh, there's already so many Straw Hats, and how can how can he handle all of that? First off, there's not too much journey left, and second off, of course, Oda can do it.
Totally.
Or at least I believe that he can.
Totally. But the thing is too is like, Momonosuke is, in my mind, already a member of the crew. He's been with us for a decade, maybe longer. He's been so prevalent in the story. He's ridden on the ship, and he has had meaningful interactions with the members of the crew that are necessary. So, and that's a big thing for me. Like, have you spent enough time, story-wise, with everybody or just about everybody? And right now, Momo checks all of those boxes because he's been with everybody. Tama is the second place for that because Tama was so prevalent at the beginning of this arc, which was Tama's been with us for 4 years now, basically. So they've been relevant in the story. But I think Zoro, and I say this a lot, Zoro is a key person that you need to have some meaningful interactions with, which is what has me sort of iffy about Carrot, because from just speaking from story and everything like that, yes, Carrot was super relevant in Whole Cake Island, but then once Wano started, it's like, let's take this to high school, right? Everybody's got their little tables and all of that. The Straw Hats sit over here, these people sit over here, these people sit over here. Carrot got to Wano and then went and sat at the mink table and didn't go and sit with the Straw Hats. She stayed with Wanda, she stayed with Inuarashi, she started doing all of these other things that were not relevant to the Straw Hats. She did not take place in the Resetsu Town battle, after Yasue, which would have been a big moment for me, Carrot's with the Straw Hats. So I'm not opposed to it. I'm not saying, if Oda puts Carrot on the squad, fine, I know that he's going to give us those moments, but Carrot has done nothing to have any time with anybody that she didn't go to Whole Cake Island with. There's been
it's do or die, right? For people who are backing that idea. I mean, and we said this earlier, right? Pretty much everyone did. Carrot went from okay, she's in Whole Cake Island, she's a special mink, to where is Carrot? That's just reality. I can twist it in some ways because I do like the who is this person? But I can twist it in some ways and try and justify it. But at the end of the day, story time is what's going to pay off most for her. Yeah, I do like the in-game. It's like Jinbei, right? Jinbei sort of represents the fishmen as a whole. Their variant of
you're talking about mink representation on the crew
society. Right, exactly. Yeah. And Carrot doesn't scream to me sometimes Tentada, for instance, it's Grand Fleet Giants. You have Hydrogen, right? So they that's where they get their place. But who's going to be for the minks? I think that personally, Nekomamushi and Inuarashi die, which makes Wanda probably
at least one of them. I think that one of them will die. I've been team Inuarashi is going to die, so that because there's this thing that's set up in Zo. You know, there's the leader of the night, there's the leader of the day, the king of the day, king of the night. You get rid of one of that, then you have this meaningful transition, you know, of Nekomamashi being, you know, the ruler of the night, having to take over the dawn and the morning for Inuarashi. I think there's a stronger theme there. Nekomamashi stays.
Make me tear up. Like that's one of those things where you think about it and you're like, oh man, don't do that. Don't do the Fred and George thing, man. Come on.
That's the way.
But I see that. Yeah, no, with Carrot, you know, it's just time for her to do something. But I definitely do like the idea of her representing Pedro. Pedro saw that the Straw Hats believed that the Straw Hats were going to be the one to create the dawn, and so the story has deviated from that quite a bit. And I think that's in large part due to Carrot's anger at Pedro being gone and who she's blamed for it, and so she needs to grow up. Put simply, I think, where, you know, understand that this is the world of pirates. I mean, if she talked to Luffy would say, well, he was free. He did what he wanted to do. He knew the dangers. And, you know, this is a fight to the death. That's what it's like here. And yes, you can be sad for him, but, you know, understand that he wouldn't want you to you know, go out in vengeance. What he wants is to achieve the dawn. So that's what you need to be focused on. How can you help, you know, create the world that he envisioned? So if we start getting that story fleshed out, then maybe it looks a little bit more possible again. But it's been a while.
Yeah. Let me get into some of these super chats that were missed. Brandon King said, aside from Kaido and Rocks, which flashbacks are you most intrigued by? He said, I want to see Kainu's, but also Bonnie and Kuma's sorbet backstory. Any flashbacks that you're waiting for?
All of them. All of the flashbacks are good. Kaido, obviously. I want all Rocks. I mean, anything to do with Rocks. I'm just... My butthole is puckered for that one.
Yeah, man. I'm with you on that.
Just throw it out there.
Yeah. Yamil Diaz said, JB, I always loved your Kaido as a dragon who ate an Oni fruit theory. In the end, it turned out to be the other way around. And Oni
That was not my theory, actually. My theory is, well, first off, way back in the day, I think it was Australopithecus. That didn't come out right, but he was the first one who really compiled the whole Kaido as a dragon theory for the community that really popped off. And so that's when it was like obvious in such third amounts, you can be pretty sure that you're somewhat close to the truth. And so I turned that, it wasn't an Oni theory. I can't actually remember exactly what I said, but I twisted that where Kaido was a dragon who didn't eat an Oni fruit, but rather could naturally shapeshift into human form, because that's in mythology, that's pretty common. You play a game like Fire Emblem, right? And you have, you know, they transform from human form to dragon form. I think that was my idea. But
true. Yeah, I haven't seen the second season of The Witcher, but I mean, I remember in the first season there were those dragon people that turned into people. Let's see. Jonathan Arcade said, unfortunately, that time was a bad time for me to tune in, but can't wait to watch the VOD later. Shout out to TROYBOY and JOYBOY. I realized in the Discord that you know, daylight savings also kind of mess people up. You know, with even the normal stream time that I do. But you know, we're utilizing our time. We're getting a lot of time here. PXPX said, Gorosei are scared of Kaido's fruit awakening if Luffy pushed him to the limit. Why else did Vegapunk experiment and clone the fruit? Otis trolling? No, I'm 100% on. It's always been the Gomu Gomu no Mi that they're worried about, or the Juicy no Mi, or anything like that.
About 50-50, I would say. I can still see, to me, the Kaido being the fruit that the Gorosei mentioned is a lot cleaner. That doesn't mean that it's more likely. It's, you know, sometimes I find the simplest answer is the right answer. And Oda also does a terrific job of distracting us, you know, so where you get the panel and it's like, oh, everyone thinks Kaido. They're not even thinking about the Gomu Gomu no Mi. I mean, some people did, but, you know, a lot of people weren't. And then you eventually get back to it with some complications along the road. That doesn't mean that Luffy doesn't have a different fruit. That doesn't mean that there aren't things about this that are incredibly relevant to Luffy, but maybe it isn't. You know, we talked before, like the thing that we're missing is make Luffy's fruit legendary, something that is worthy of changing its name, you know? And so you can take that out and still have a lot of cool things.
I think context is key because they in that scene, it was at 10:37. They start their conversation before we're, you know, sandwiched in between images of Zunisha, right, where everybody thought it was Zunisha. I was like, no, that's the misdirection right there, is the Zunisha part. But they're talking about capturing Robin, and then they're talking about the Straw Hats, and then they start talking about, you know, the Fruit Awakening. So I'm thinking the line of thinking is staying within the Straw Hats there.
See, you made a very important, you know, and this is just, you know, like digging into people's minds to see how they perceive. You believe that it's possible that Luffy's fruit is responsible for Zunisha. And immediately, if that's true, we don't know that it's true, but if you assume it's true, then all of that just fits so much, you know, it's so much more satisfying, because it's not just, oh, we're going to throw in Zunisha just to get him off the trail. No, it actually relates in a really surprising, interesting way.
This is what they're talking about is what would created this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
just
not
more
a thought
that it ever existed in my. It's not a thought that existed in my mind, you know. So immediately say that, and I'll ponder over this in the next couple of days, and you might have convinced me. You know what I mean?
Dawn Knight 1993 said, "What do you admire about other theorists? Also, what's one theory you're working on?" And T's question for both of you: literally favorite YouTubers right here. Anything you want to throw out there?
We're at the part of the arc where I feel like all the theories for the arc itself are going to be wrapping up. So things like Ghost Piece is obviously the biggest theory that I have left. You can get into really specific things like Momonosuke, even things like Momonosuke looking like Odin, I guess technically is a theory. But, you know, we're just in the sit and wait and enjoy phase, I feel like. And as far as in-game stuff, I'm not ready for that yet. You know, once we get to the end of the battle, I'll reevaluate where I feel like from, you know, where do we jump off next? Do we go to Albaf? What about Sabo? Those sorts of things. I'm not in the mood, or I'm not prepared right now to delve into those things.
Yeah. Everything for me right now is making sure that each individual character storyline and everything is just buttoned up and wrapped up in a satisfying way. You know, so it's just getting us to that close, because it's, for me, everything was on this roller coaster up until they beat Big Mom. When they beat Big Mom, we started this roller coaster down. Everything shifted. Now the next chapter right after that, everybody was trying to figure out, how do we get off of Onigashima? The conversations changed in a radical way, and that's why we're heading towards the end game here. But what I admire about other theorists is, you know, what they bring to the table. It's what, you know, you were talking about earlier, Joyboy. You know, like, you're a writer, so you're looking at it from a structured perspective. More just, you know, he's looking at it from a different way as well. He's also trying to come from a structure, but everybody always brings their own, like, different spin towards it. People have said, you know, my film perspective is interesting to them. Everybody, you know, the community is, you know, big fans of Murphy now, who, like, reviews novels and has no basis in anime and manga. So everybody brings their own thing to the table. Someone like Tekking is bringing that, you know, vast knowledge of other animes and mangas into what they're saying. Shout out to W's in the chat for Bobby Panamar, who said, my two favorite theorists. What if Dripper Scarfino fed Luffy the Mera? Ace made a promise to Wano. Sabo is theorized to have been assassinated. If this is true, now all three boys would finally get a reunion with Luffy and Joy Boy. I mean, that's a crazy thought, and I gotta say a no to that as well.
Big no.
Yeah, I mean, Dripper, you know, and if you don't know Joy Boy, that's my community's name for blue scarf, is Dripper Scarfino. So I gave every CP0 member their name and their own name because Oda refuses to. So I do not think that Dripper fed Luffy the Mera. I do not believe that Sabo is dead, But one thing that I do like about what this chapter tells us and what it holds is that there's the possibility for, and even some foreshadowing in Dressrosa, for Sabo to communicate with Ace via souls being inside of devil fruits. So from that perspective, the next time that Luffy and Sabo meet, if Sabo has any sort of way to, access that, if that's what's happening with Luffy and Joy Boy, that he's able to access Joy Boy, who was maybe fossilized within the resin of the fruit. We're getting wacky. Hey,
No, I'm with you. I'm following.
It's
yeah.
Let's get the tinfoil hats.
Know what
on.
it is.
You know what time it is. Come on, it's about to be that time. And I'm waiting for that moment when Luffy goes to Sphinx Island and has his moment with Ace's grave, and maybe that's an opportunity if Sabo is there as well, and they're all sort of reunited together there in a way. I think that there will be a reunion, but not in any way. I truly believe that Luffy has Lunarian DNA in him, and that's partially why he's able to do Red Hawk and things like that. I need an explanation for that. And while there, things have come out where resin is flammable and all this other stuff, but how is that spark happening? Just a lot of things will get cleared up in the story if there's Lunarian DNA mixed in. Luffy, if Sanji was spliced with Lunarian DNA and that's why he's able to use Diable Jambe, then we're good. We're good. There's in-universe explanations. We don't have to get too wacky. Let's see. Marcus Taylor said, can I get you to say something positive about Moria? Now, is that to you, Joey Boy? Do you hate Moria or something?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I like Moria. Thriller Bark, for all the consternation, I've seen a lot of people, and you talked about Weekly, I've seen that before, I enjoyed Thriller Bark. I also am, one of my favorite arcs probably is the Foxy arc. So it might say something about the kind of story that I like. So I don't know. It was funny to me, and that works.
I am a Davy Back defender, bro. All right. And I read Davy Back Weekly. I am a Davy Back defender. It has some of the greatest just interactions between the crew, and that's what I love. I love the crew being the crew. So.
Oh, I think a lot of people look for importance to the arc. Why is this here? It just feels like filler. Outside of best filler possible, in my opinion, just in terms of character interactions and just being enjoyable week to week reading. There's some in-game concepts there too. For instance, what if the world of pirates in the past is important? So now we learn of a game that they played and how that might tie into the world.
Precisely.
I personally believe that Joy Boy was a pirate back in the day. And so he's out there playing Davy Back fights, and so it relates. And we don't know exactly how yet, but we'll eventually get there.
I am waiting for the Davy Back fight to return. We get inversions of just about everything in the in the New World side of all of this, and a serious Davy Back, is something that I want. A lot of people speculate that Rox got his crew from Davy Backs. I'm not really on that. I think it's more interesting if Rox was actually a good guy going about things the wrong way, and Luffy was able to draw these big names to him. Because to me, having Whitebeard on your crew, having Big Mom on your crew, having all these other people is no different than Luffy having Zoro on his crew, Sanji on his crew, Jinbei on his crew. It's the same thing to me. What I would love is if we have a Davy Back against Blackbeard, because he wants to use it to get Robin without them having to, basically scrap about it. It's if I just win this, I'll get Robin.
It's one of those things. I never want to bet it against Oda. I mean, this has probably been a reoccurring theme of the stream so far, but there's some times where I'm impressed. It's not just One Piece. It's a lot of stories where you see an idea, and just think to yourself, how would I have written that? Is this was this intuitive? How they transform this idea at its most base level into something that it actually turned out to be. And so this is one of those examples of that. I think Morris made a theory as well about a Davy Back fight in Elbaf with Shanks. And one of my problems is that I don't know how you can up the tension of a Davy Back fight to the level that it needs to be to be incorporated into some in-game events, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen, you know? And it's like
Davey
one of
back
those
against
times
Shanks doesn't make sense to me because the stakes aren't there. It's like as if it was against Foxy again.
it can't.
Oh, actually, I would say
Right,
I would say the Davey back fight against Foxy would have more stakes than against Shanks.
Right. Well, especially at the end of the story, you know, I like the goofiness of One Piece, and I think that it has its place. But a whole arc, I think, which it would be versus a person like Shanks, probably. It's just so you need a different tension, you need a different feeling from it. And I personally, I don't envy the task of trying to do that. But if it was done, you can that's one of those things that I'd be excited for. Like as soon as you start to see that and be in it, that would be an impressive moment for me.
Yeah, like
I can't.
I mean, imagine, right? We're finally there. Luffy versus Blackbeard. The crew is standing up against everything. We're fully expecting we're about to get one-on-ones against everybody. The community's been speculating. You know, oh, Sanji versus Pizarro, Lafitte versus Brook, whatever. It's about to happen, and then Blackbeard just pulls out 3 coins and is like, nah, buddy. like we're doing this. And then Luffy remembers, and he's just like, all right, let's go. And now we're in the Blackbeard Davey back fight.
Blackbeard was at the pirate island too. He was
right?
at the
Exactly.
pirate island.
Exactly. Like there's so many ways. Oda is gonna zip. He's gonna zig and zag, man. And I'm here for it all day. Lucy B asked, Joy Boy, do you think Shanks knew what kind of devil fruit he stole? And which straw hat is your favorite?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a thing that has to be. There's a possibility that Shanks just knew the fruit was important. There's a possibility that he just randomly encountered it. But I tend to think, I like the idea that Shanks been working, scheming in the background, making things happen. And so, if this fruit is legendary, there's no doubt in my mind, Shanks could have heard about it through Roger or Rayleigh or whatever from the poneglyphs.
I mean, look at Rayleigh. What has he been doing for years? Sitting on Sabaody, taking the resin and putting it on ships. Like there is a connection here. There's a connection.
Yeah, so that's where my mind is. Absolutely, I think that I at least I want to believe that Shanks is creating an environment suitable for the new Pirate King to rise and for that person to find the One Piece and turn the world upside down.
So let me tell you my timeline for the way that I believe things, right? And shout out to Artur for putting the timeline together of things. When Fisher Tiger went to Marigeau, right? He frees the slaves. I think that is going to be revealed to be the time that a bunch of fruits went missing as well. Because within the next year is when Luffy got his fruit and Law got his.
Slaves.
What's that?
About slaves too. We know that the Celestial Dragon just gave them willy-nilly to slaves. So you free a bunch of slaves, just like Boa Hancock, and then they die and then the fruits go into circulation.
Exactly. So I think that the world government was on the hunt for the Gomu Gomu no Mi, Jushi Jushi no Mi, the Sabao no Mi, whatever. And they finally got hold of it, but Shanks knew that and then intercepted the ship with Who's Who on it and all of that, took the fruit, and maybe even had the intention of finding Ace, Roger's son, giving it to him, but Luffy ate it first. And that's why he was on Fuchsia Island.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. Especially, you have those low-key lines about Roger, well, it couldn't be me, but it's going to be my son, and then that's the thing that I feel like could be very influential on Shanks' perspective.
And then we'll go back to chapter 1. We'll go back to chapter 1, and we'll listen to different things that Luffy said and the reactions that Shanks had to those lines. Go back to Sabaody, and when we get that little flashback of Shanks talking to Rayleigh, and it's just like he said everything that Roger said. So it wasn't gonna. He already ate the fruit, but he was saying everything that Roger was saying. So this is our Joy Boy. This is our horse. I'm putting all of my chips on this. This bandit took him. Right, exactly. Destiny or fate. Shout out to Whoop Slap.
Oh.
Like I gave up my arm because this is the person Roger was waiting for.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, you're Shanks, right? And you're trying to, you have the fruit, and you're like, okay, like how do
Savage.
You obviously Ace is obviously a prime one because of Roger, but the things and there comes a point in time where I think any reasonable person would have been like, no, this is too coincidental to ignore. That this is the universe is speaking to me.
Yeah,
That's,
man.
yeah. That's much for that.
Yeah, I don't think that Shanks is a bad guy. I think he's manipulating
Oh.
everything to factor into exactly what Roger wanted, and he may be going about it in a different way. Like I also believe that Shanks could have come and saved Ace, but he didn't step in until he probably found out that Luffy was there, and that it didn't matter to him whether or not Ace lived or died, and he was probably stopping Kaido from going there because it would lead to Ace continuing to be this potential Joy Boy. And it's like, no, we don't need all of these extra Joy Boys. I just need this one kid to do it. So
Well, and there's probably I mean there's like the in game battle, right? I'm sure that it's prophesized to some extent that Shanks would know something about it, and I think that Shanks has been trying to avoid that until the conditions he feels like are right for a candidate to rise above and sort of claim victory. And so it's obviously at this point in time a battle, a huge world battle versus the Marines and Yonko, Whitebeard, and then maybe Kaido shows up. It's not going to be Ace and it's not going to be Luffy that are going to be winning this battle. They're not going to be the ones that sort of seize the reins of the world at that point in time. So you can't have a battle like that. And that's sort of how I rationalize it. Same thing with the Gorosei. I think that a lot of people view the guy speaking to them in a cordial sense, and
you cut out a
working
second
with
there,
them.
man. Let's see. You said you think the Gorosei, and then I lost you.
Yeah, with the Gorosei, a lot of people think that the Gorosei are like, and the government are inherently evil. But you have like details from the story where interesting dialogue choices, like for instance in Robin's flashback in O'Hara, where they order the Buster Call and they kill the scholars there. There's consternation on the face of the Gorosei, as if this is a thing that they're doing, but they don't want to do. You can look at the panels and be like, no, this is. I think a Gorosei actually puts his hand over his face, like, no, this isn't what we wanted.
Yeah,
basically.
Gandhi
He didn't
goes
say
like
it in
this.
words.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just interesting where I think a lot of people assume that Shanks interacting with the Gorosei like this implies that he might not be an ally, whereas I tend to think it's like so much more from the story that we obviously need. But it would be amazing if like we see Roger fight rocks in God Valley. He protects celestial dragons
Savage.
for a reason that doesn't immediately make sense to us. Why did he choose celestial dragons over somebody like rocks? So I kind of hope in the end game, right, we discover that there was pirates on the side of the founders of the world government, and that probably the ultimate fear that they had was not the government, although over time it's probably corrupted even further, especially from the nobles. The greatest fear, the Armageddon, the Ragnarok or whatever that is prophesized is prophesized to be started by someone like Blackbeard, a pirate who totally destroys the world. And so then you think about Shanks and his role trying to cultivate it. It's like we need to make sure that somebody like Luffy, the Pirate King, to fight against this world-ending event is a good guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's so this is something that I was sort of thinking about when I was doing my reread of Sabaody to get ready for the video I've got coming out. Which get ready for that, guys. All of the foreshadowing of resin in the story and why the fruit is resin. But I was just thinking about the visual nature of it. We're introduced to this idea of resin, we're introduced to these bubbles, and I think that Luffy is going to be able to produce these sort of bubbles, and he's already visualized it, he's seen it, so once he gets the idea, he's probably going to do it. But one of the first things that Luffy does with the bubble is put it over his head, like a celestial dragon. And then we're introduced to the celestial dragons. What if this was Joy Boy's thing, you know, and we have, you know, not to get to Khalifa with it, right? But I mean, we still have, you know, Miss Wednesday and Mock Vice. We have Gladius and Mr. Five, Kuzan and Monet.
Savage.
This fruit could be an offshoot of, you know, the Awa Awa no Mi, you know, creating bubbles and things like that. But what if this was a visual indicator of Joy Boy, and that the fact that that the celestial dragons have these bubbles on their head is not even, you know, so much to not breathe the same air as everybody, but that it's an homage to Joy Boy, that the descendants of the creator was Joy Boy. We're told that his resin abilities are able to create houses and things like that, and he brought together the...
Are you talking about like god status? Because this was actually a thought that occurred to me that I was going to ask you when you were bringing up Susanoo and you know, you were dropping a Wikipedia on us. You know, it's like, how do you see this playing in the story? Is it just an illusion? Is it just something like that? Are we actually going to see this as a creation story for One Piece, you think?
I mean, I think that the possibilities for anything are here, based on the way that we've seen the structure of the story and the way that Oda goes about writing it. He's drawing things from everything, even pop culture. But I think it would be interesting if the Celestial Dragons think that they are enacting Joy Boy's will in some sort of weird way.
You know, and this is another interesting thing as well, is like celestial dragons. Why dragons? Why is their symbol the hoof of dragon? And, you know, you think about some of the theories that are going along right now with Kaido's fruit. You know, what is the importance of the dragons in the world of One Piece as well? That's where my thoughts go.
Well, we have the sun
was
god
Joy Boy
Nika.
a dragon? Is basically I'm saying.
I mean, I guess there's a possibility for that as well. You know, I mean, there's things to be open for anything, but it's also, I think, you know, there's a lot of wars that have happened over time that have been, my god is better than your god. You know, so if you have the sun god, which is trying to be eradicated, right? Maybe the hoof of the dragon that the Celestial Dragons has is the symbol of their god, and that the whole, because it's not. It's not like it's my idea, but I mean, like, I truly believe that the Void history is just that they're trying to hide the genocides and, you know, the atrocities that they committed to rebuild and reshape the world in their own image. So that's that's kind of the way that we get with that's sort of how we get to these sort of rationalizations. And Oda's not afraid to talk about things that are hidden in history. I've brought this up a couple of times. You know, one of the biggest atrocities in human history is the genocide in the Congo, which was over rubber. Like 15 million people slaughtered over rubber.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
So, let's get into some super chats real quick here. We got Zalager said, Davy back seems like a good exit for someone like Kuzan. Yeah, that's interesting. Simon DeBeef, whoops, lost it, said, Fujitora has been foreshadowed to be from Wano, sandals, kimono, katana. Do you agree? Could he become a sword member after seeing Luffy free his homeland? I mean, I like the idea of Fujitora being from somewhere else, personally, because that would imply that the Marines went to Wano and recruited him because he was drafted. And we haven't seen him in any flashbacks, so I think he came from somewhere else. But him being a sword member is possible. It's possible, but he's also new to the Marines. So, I don't know. Shiny Crowbat said, whenever Kuma sent off one of the Straw Hats, a tree resin bubble popped. If Luffy is resin, this could have been a huge indicator. There's so much foreshadowing. Like, everybody go reread Sabaody.
We're waiting for you to break it down, man.
it's insane. And Fishman Island too. Like, it's not just Sabaody. Boss Cobra said in One Piece Stampede they were fighting on what the island they were fighting on was in a bubble on top of the knock upstream. Do you think that's a hint to Laugh Tale's location? No, I don't necessarily. I mean, I don't want to take anything from Stampede because there's only really one element to that was canon in a sense. But I do think that Fishman Island, the bubble that it's in, was created by Joyboy. Let's see. Barry Motivated said, shout out to Joyboy and the Texas crew. Since we're talking about Shanks, what do you think Roger told him that made him cry when they came back from Laugh Tale? Do we think it influenced his actions? I don't know about you, Joyboy, but I think that I think it would be interesting if Shanks was responsible for whatever Roger's illness was in some way. Like Roger was saving Shanks and caught some sort of illness because he put his life on the line for Shanks to parallel Shanks saving Luffy. And Roger just came back and said, what I found there wasn't the cure. But
yeah, it could also be really simple as well. Just simply, this is the end of my journey. It's the start of yours. You know, you're next.
True.
I think that could carry a lot of power depending on the wording.
Yeah. Ian McLaughlin, appreciate you both. What are your thoughts that Zunisha's crime may be a Cain and Abel parallel, meaning he would be connected to characters representing Adam and Eve somehow? That's interesting. It's interesting. I do think that Zunisha's crime is probably like trampling over the ancient kingdom by accident or by control or something, you know.
No, the way I like to think about Zunisha, at least, you know, is like it's really one of the difficulties of war, especially if you believe that you're fighting on the side of justice, is how far is it acceptable to go in order to change the world a better way? You know, how much evil and destruction. And it's a relevant question, I feel like, and maybe one that influenced Zunisha or whoever might have been controlling Zunisha. Like to what level? How many lives would you sacrifice in order to save your friend, for instance?
True that. True, man. Yeah. Eb Moogie, have you read about the rubber people? The rubber people, or the Olmec, could be the inspiration for the ancient kingdom. No, I'm not familiar with this. Rubber people. The Olmec. We're getting into Legends of the Hidden Temple here. Blockon said, about Luffy using resin to coat ships, what if after he destroys Fishman Island, coats the Noah and takes them to the surface? Well, I mean, they're fishmen, so I don't necessarily think he needs to coat the Noah, but maybe that, I mean, it depends on how well built the Noah was. They do say that a submarine wouldn't be able to survive the trek down, but somehow while it's down there, it's able to sustain its pressure. So it's maybe just an added element of safety on its way up. Let's see. Now, JB, I know you said that you had to go at one, or you still did. Is there anything else you wanted to get into?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got to go here pretty soon. But you know, this is it's so big, right? This chapter it unloads a can of kick-ass discussion that cannot be contained within an hour and 30 minutes. I just did a collab with Brago, Archer, Library of O'Hara, and Parvision, and that was 2 hours too. And I still feel like there's more that needs to be discussed. So, you know, but unfortunately, time does not allow.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But hey, man, you do these again, man. There's like, I am ready for it. You better believe it.
Yeah, I try to keep them to break weeks because it's like if I did it every week, I think it would get stale. But doing it every break week, and you know, I think that's more interesting. We have a couple of chapters to talk about, and that's what makes it fun and interesting for me. But man, you know, we have let's see. Still have over 750 people here coming in for this. This was awesome. It's been great talking to you, man. You know, this is a long time coming. People have wanted the Troy Boy and Joy Boy connection here.
No, I can see why people wanted it. You know, it's been tough for me over the past, say, 2 years ago to keep up with what everybody is saying.
Same.
Like just talking to you, it's like very very obvious to me that our perspectives are very cohesive. I mean, it's like, yeah, I can see how we might have shared followers that would want us to collab.
Yeah, man. No, I'm excited, and if we get any more, oh, well, actually, before you go, real quick, what do you think is going on with Zoro?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Well, I want them to actually visit the underworld. That's what I want. I want the
Same.
borders between the world of the living and the world of the dead to momentarily cross during the fire festival. And at that point, you know, I think personally after this last chapter, I think Luffy momentarily died. You know, sort of reflected in, you know, you see him and then all of a sudden his heart is beating. I think that his heart starts beating, which means that his heart wasn't beating for a time. And so, you know, with Zoro and with the potential spirits that they could interact with across the board, what I hope that we get to. I'm looking for an escalation from Thriller Bark is what I'm looking for. Like he got really close to death, but how do we take the same moment and make it even better? And that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, I want to see the underworld as well. I think it's an opportunity for Oda, you know, without making it cheesy, to have, you know, a reaffirmation of Zoro's goals if he's able to, on the other side, have a conversation with Kuina. You know, like he's like in this other realm, what Brook had seen, you know, and has to work his way back, or, you know, we have to take that trip to the underworld where Brook was. You know, if Zoro is dead, this could be the key moment for Brook in the story, where he awakens and he opens that door so that we can do this, we can deal with this. And it's
Big Mom's fruit could be interesting as well, although I'm not entirely sure she comes back at this point, but you know, that's another possibility. Just a soul fruit would work really well.
Yeah, I mean, well, she's definitely coming back, and
Oh yeah, I'm coming back, but you know,
Yeah.
in the short term. Of course, Mother Carmel as well. If you want to take the Souls theory all the way, you know, you make this the resolution of Big Mom's arc with Mother Carmel. She finds out the truth, interactions with her family, other things as well.
I think we're gonna need pudding for that. I think she's gonna have to put the memories back in her. I mean, I love the idea of the CP0 guys being some kids that didn't get eaten, and if they had
orphans,
if they had a conversation like, hey, you ate Mother Carmel, then we could have wrapped everything up in Wano. But since we didn't, now I think we need to have pudding play into a role in another arc with Big Mom, and then we can wrap up her individual story arc. That's why she's not done. That's why she's not dead. It needed to happen. So there's so much that can happen, and I'm excited for anything that we could possibly get from this underworld stuff. And that's why I think, hopefully, this is why I want in 1044. I don't even want to go back to Luffy at all. I want to stay with what's happening downstairs. I want Kaido to just be, I want to sit in this dread. I want to see other Straw Hats interactions and reactions to the fact that Luffy has died. And, maybe we go back to Frankie, we go back to Zoro, and, we just get this other crushing blow. Zoro is dead.
Savage.
man, that would turn the community upside freaking down.
Yeah.
Insanity, total insanity. At that point in time, if this chapter didn't crush you, that chapter will.
Yeah, because Luffy's either coming back in a Cavendish and Hakuba situation, where Joy Boy is taken over momentarily until we get Luffy back in charge. But I think that this Zoro thing will stick until we can actually bring him back somehow. And
Got to be the king of hell first. Come back, the king of hell.
Yep. I'll tell you what. King of the hell.
Pain.
You're in Texas. Come
Damn
on.
it, Bobby.
God,
Damn
God,
it, Bobby.
God dang it, Luffy.
That's a callback right there.
Yeah. Last super chat while Joy Boy's here. Let's see. Milo Cake said, glad I was able to catch part of this live. Quick fire questions before Joyboy leaves. Sorry if it's been covered earlier. Thoughts on reincarnation, relation between Joyboy, Sun God, and Binks. Most excited for Vegapunk and Wano or the Kaido flashback. That's a lot there. Handle that however you want, JB.
Incarnation, yes. Binks, Luffy, and Joyboy, same person. And I missed the rest.
More excited for Vegapunk or Kaido's flashback?
Punk.
Yeah, and I hope he's on those ships because we can't. This is another. One thing's for sure, if Vegapunk isn't on those ships, Momo definitely joins because you can't have an interaction with Vegapunk if Momo is not present. Because he's got to have a conversation with Momo, Sanji, and Frankie. Those are the 3 people Vegapunk is tied to in the crew. So we could wrap that up in Wano if he's on those ships. Potentially. I mean, there's a lot. But talking about Vegapunk, that adds another hour.
Or more.
or more. So I'm going to... let's wrap. I'll keep the stream going and I'll talk to the chat for a little bit longer. But Joyboy does have to, get back to Texas things, and
gotta go ride my horse.
Yeah. So, thanks again, man. Definitely want to do this again in the future. And hold on one second here. What is this? Let's see. Oh yeah, there was one other super chat from Zoe, who's a channel goat here. She said, Joyboy, I've followed you for almost 10 years before finding Captain Randy. Please say hi, Zoe. Joyboy here.
Hey, Zoe. Joyboy here.
There we go. Zoe got it. And hi, Zoe. Hi, Zoe. Troyboy here. So we got. I definitely want to do this again. Hopefully, we get some more underworld stuff, and we can really dive into Ghost Piece even more. Everybody in the
If
chat.
that happens, you're legends.
Everybody in the chat, let's say bye to Joyboy. Let's thank our guest for Theory this week, and yeah, thanks, brother. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was great.
All right. There we go. Give me 1 second here, guys, to fix this. And let's see. Just need a second to get my video back up here, guys, because it's still connected to Discord. Oh, that's why it's not working. I have to disconnect the call. There we go. Cool. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. We were able to get into a lot there. I think I got to most, if not all, of the super chats while we were going through. Anime All Day TV said, "What do you think about Blue Flame Sanji?" Blue Flame Sanji. Oh, what do I think of that? You already know.
Certified drip.
Certified drip, people. He's got the blue heat on feet.
Savage.
The blue heat on feet?
It was spicy. Certified drip.
If you guys haven't seen it yet, the preliminary cover for Volume 102 came out and confirmed that Afrit Jambe is blue, right? Which, of course, on a scale of heat and fire and all of that, a blue flame is hotter than a orange or red flame. So, it's just great from just great stuff from Oda there, you know. Let's see. I did not get into this super chat. Denomand 101 said Luffy's alleged death is prophecy that is a prophecy that's on Kaido's road poneglyph. Jumping off cliffs, let Marines capture you that many times. That's the whole reason for Kaido's suicide shenanigans. He wanted to be Joy Boy. Yeah, we talked about this. We talked about the possibility of Luffy trying to die. Kaido trying to die so that he could activate this Joy Boy business. And, yeah. Very possible indeed. There we go. We'll go with that.
Another one.
Barry said, Randy, I knew that blue shirt was a sign. See? We already knew. I got my Heat on Feet shirt with on the blue because it just like I had to do it. And you know, shameless plug, I think the store has free shipping right now. I think that the spread shop as a whole is running a campaign for free shipping. So if anybody was like worried about the high shipping rates and all of that, I think they have that going on for a couple of days. Links are below. Gabe C, member for 8 months, said Taekwon next Theory for Theory. And then we're not ranking other YouTubers here, Gabe, so I'm not reading the rest of that. Let's see. That is savage though. You know, that's. Let's see. Maxo said, "I'd love to see a Randy Parvision collab." I've been getting that a lot lately, and I'm not familiar with Parvision's stuff. I haven't seen anything from him, but I know that a lot of people are liking his stuff. And you know, hey, we're gonna have a lot of break weeks coming up. You know, there's definitely plenty of people that I want to get into, you know, talking about things with eventually, and you know, we'll see what we can make. But I also like to wait to see where the story's at, right? So you know, it's like we have this Joy Boy business. It's like, hey, let me talk to Joy Boy. We have all this stuff with the underworld. Like I wanted to talk to Joy Boy a couple of weeks ago when we saw Zoro with the Grim Reaper. So it just felt natural to kind of have this be the time that, you know, we do the Joy Boy collab. So let's see. Darren the Great said that new Luffy OST for Awakening performance. So I saw that the new OSTs came out. I haven't had a chance to go and listen to all of them, but I'm excited to hear them. Let's see. Lucy B said, "Get Liam for a Theory for Theory." Disagree about everything. Well, you know, I don't think that Liam fancies himself a theorist. You know, because I started theorizing during the Reverie, and he was basically shutting anything down that was a theory. So, you know, I had to put him in check, man. I'm just like, hey, you know, that's what we're here to do, man. We're talking about this story, so you know, it's just more of an open mind sort of thing. Tyler Patterson said, Parvision does a lot of cool takes, pointed out a lot of references to Salvador Dali in the last couple of chapters. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, the main Salvador Dali reference that, you know, I can make is Brooke and Dressrosa, you know, with, why am I forgetting her name? This chick right here turned Brooke into a Salvador Dali painting. mad at myself. I normally remember everybody's name. So, Celsius said that I skipped the super chat. Sorry about that. I'll find it. Oh, I see it here. All right. This is from Celicia Kinlow, who said, what if the Gorosei ordered CP0 to kill Luffy so that he would become Joy Boy? Shanks' info helped them realize that there was a possibility a death here could call Joy Boy's spirit, and they chose Luffy. So I don't think that... I think it's... I like the idea more so that Shanks knew, but the Gorosei didn't know what would happen. So that he maybe manipulated them into killing Luffy, or putting Luffy in a situation where he could become Joy Boy. I think the Gorosei were definitely trying to prevent this exact thing. I mean, and that's also because it's one of my favorite tropes in media to begin with, is when a villain brings upon their own destruction, right? By doing the thing that they think is going to help them achieve their goal, they actually bring the thing that's going to destroy them. So in this scenario, in this situation, Dripper killing, putting Luffy in the position where he dies, right, is his direct order. But it also brings upon exactly what the world government is trying to prevent, has been trying to prevent for 800 years, the return of Joy Boy. The melting clocks for Luffy's fruit? That's a stretch for me. That's a stretch for me. I think that's trying to bring in things that don't relate to make it seem like they relate. But let's see, the Dolly painting of elephants. Let's see. I'm looking this up. Now, the Dolly painting of elephants, yes. Yes. This I would give, especially considering, isn't that what we've been told about Zunisha anyway, that their legs are that long? So that's there. But the melting clocks, no. Let's see. Dragon said, I believe that Shanks would turn against even Luffy if it means keeping the balance of the world intact. I think he would betray anyone if it lines up with Roger's goal. So, but I think that Luffy is actually, like, Shanks has been playing this 4D chess game with Luffy, and I think that everything is going the right way with it. Are Joy Boy and Nika the same person? It's very possible, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. Catching up with the chat. Super chat from Drek, the Drek, who said, reincarnation renders inherited will pointless. Although it wouldn't be new, Conqueror's coding invalidated offensive armament hockey. So, because of all of the things that have been going on in Wano regarding the Fire Festival and being able to communicate with the dead and things like that, I'm not entirely opposed to... I don't even think of it as a reincarnation. I think of it as an awakening. And that it's probably why the fruit is called, the ability is called Awakening the Fruit, because you are awakening the previous user, the previous power. So there's a high probability that we do have, a fully autonomous Luffy that is now awakened and, will be in control. But there's also the possibility that for a temporary thing, a time limit, You know, I said this in my last video, and, you know, a lot of the comments were, I don't think that Joy Boy's taking over Luffy and all of this stuff. It's going to ruin the story. He's going to have all of the knowledge of the One Piece and everything like that. I'm not saying that he's going to gain Joy Boy's memories. I'm not even saying that he's going to be Joy Boy forever, but that it could be like just a temporary power-up, a Nightmare Luffy thing where it only lasts for a certain period of time. It puts a hell of a lot of damage on Kaido, but then Luffy gets to take his body back over after a conversation about maybe even freedom and things like that, and you know, having your own will, or, you know, Joy Boy says something to someone like Momonosuke, or, you know, and all of that, and then releases Luffy. It's not going to be a situation, if it is really Joy Boy returning, because that's the whole thing, is what Zunisha is saying, is it literal? Is it literal that Joy Boy is here, or is it more symbolic? That's what we need to know when we get to 1044 and beyond, which I don't think we're going to get the answer in 1044. I hope we don't get the answer in 1044. I know everybody wants the answer, but it's going to be better for the story if we don't, if Oda takes his time with this. So I personally would like for it to be literal, because it's going to be a lot easier to explain Luffy's new powers if Joy Boy puts them on display, right? Because Joy Boy and Luffy are two different people, and the way that one person uses a fruit isn't necessarily going to be the same way that someone else uses the fruit. And, you know, or there's some sort of muscle memory within the fruit, and the way that you're using it is subconsciously the way that another person used the fruit. You know, but if we get this wacky, you know, chapter where Luffy is utilizing his abilities in a way that seems like he's been able to use this awakening for years, that's going to kind of take me out of it for a minute, because this is an ability, he should have, if we're getting this, he should have no idea what he's doing. This should be Kaku versus Zoro. Transforming for the first time, like, what is this? What am I doing? You know, maybe we get a flashback at that point where he starts to remember the, you know, everything in Saba Odi, right? If a bubble starts to appear off of him, like, maybe we get like a little flashback, and then he starts to think about that. Then I'm like, hey, then he can start like creating bubbles, running on top of the bubbles, and all of that stuff, and remembering different things that Papagu told him in Saba Odi. Then I'm on board, right? If he starts using it in that way. But if Joy Boy does a Hakuba Cavendish type thing for, you know, even a couple of minutes, right, and uses these abilities, and then Luffy has the muscle memory, like, oh wait, I think he did this, right? Then Luffy can come up with his own ideas, but he has a basis for what he's supposed to be doing. Skater Boyfriend said Sabo could use Ace's ability right off the bat. True, the first thing he did was a Hiken, Fire Fist. Now, was that some sort of muscle memory from the fruit, or was it something that he had heard about that Ace had done, you know, by talking to other people that knew Ace? Like, oh yeah, you know, he used to do this thing called Fire Fist, and he, you know, he had 2 years to meet people about Ace too. But, you know, we'll see. King J said, Randy, what are your thoughts on Zoro meeting his parents in the underworld and knowing his roots to Wano? Interesting. I don't know if that's necessarily the way that I would like to get that information, but hey. Milo said, hey, Randy, your thoughts on my 3 Super Chat questions? Well, I've given my thoughts on reincarnation. I just gave that. Relation between Joy Boy, Nika, and Binks. Joy Boy could be the sun god. He could also be an alternative god to Nika. He could be a different god. He could be the god that the Celestial Dragons worship. Binks and the sake, you know, that could be like Joy Boy's best friend, and he was the guy who made the sake and all of that, and that Joy Boy was the one who made the song about the sake that Binks, you know, had and how it brought people together. I think that with the different names and all of that, like I feel like they should be different people, but they could be the same. So it's, we just need a lot more info. And am I more excited for Vegapunk or the Kaido flashback? See, now that's the toughest question in here, because I'm very excited for Vegapunk and what he could bring to the story, but I will say this, I'm more excited for a Rocks flashback than a Kaido flashback. I want the Kaido flashback, and I want the Yamato side and all of that and whatever, but I'm more excited about learning about Rocks and his motives and everything than I am learning about Vegapunk right now. But just Kaido on his own, without being a part of Rocks, I'm more excited about Vegapunk. Let's see. Milo said, is Shirahoshi a reincarnation of the former princess and queen, the former Poseidon? Possibly. That's very possible. You know, I mean, with these inherited powers and different things like that, it does open the idea of reincarnation. Like, when you think about it from that perspective, it seems like a no-brainer that it could be that. DK said, theory. Awakenings are called as such because you remember all of the previous users' ways that they used the fruit, but not the actual memories of the people. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's... you know, kind of what I was getting at, but that's, you know, more specifying, you know, without having a conversation with the user. But that would also imply that Sabo immediately awakened the Maramara no Mi the second he ate it, which is kind of wild. Robinator said, thoughts on the red line being hardened resin from a previous user of Luffy's fruit that was forced to divide the world, and only an awakened user can dissolve it, making the world one piece. Yeah, no, I actually get into that in the video that's going to be coming out, because we learned also from Lord Dumper Papagu that the red line is a collection of, or was it Nami that told us on the way to Fishman Island? It might have been Nami on the way to Fishman Island. The red line is comprised of a bunch of different islands, essentially, stitched together, right? And that's why the temperature shifts as you're underwater heading to Fishman Island. You're getting the different polarities in the weather of, you know, what the island had as you're underneath it. And that's why Nami tells everybody to put a coat on. So, because they're under a winter island's, you know, temperature. I think it's very possible. I think it's possible that Joy Boy, you know, took these islands, stitched them together, and probably thought he was doing it for a good reason, and then learned that it was the wrong reason, and that all it did was help his enemies, you know, twist his words, twist his message, and basically ruin the world and start enslaving people, and that could be the very reason for his apology and why his apology was necessary. So, and I think that he created the mangroves and maybe even, you know, enlarged these trees and this ground and everything so that people had a place away from the world government that they may not have been able to find in those days because it didn't have a magnetic field. So it started as a safe place that eventually, when found, was turned into you know, a tourist attraction and a slave trading area, and just bastardized exactly what Joy Boy wanted from that. So, and then the reason why we don't see the islands themselves, because they're stitched together, is because they've been covered in a goopy resin over time, you know, and it's almost like a glue. It's a sticky substance. It's a resin. It's an epoxy. It will stick everything together. So it's entirely possible that the red line was created by Joyboy. Got Evil in the chat, my guy, what's up? Shout out to the still over 550 people in here. Happy to see everybody. Let's see. All right. K-Pro said, I think Joyboy got Odined. He had to choose between saving lives now or winning and losing many. I mean, there's a lot of things. And I mean, like, Oda is not immune to redoing different storylines and all of that, so. Yeah. But twisting them. You know, it's never exactly the same. It's twisted, it's flipped, it's rearranged, it's paralleled. So. Let's see. And they want me to look at another Salvador Dali painting. A dream caused by the flight of a bee. This is an intensely long name. Around a pomegranate. Alright, let's see. Now, I mean, first of all, looking at Salvador Dali's work is, you know, not a bad idea, because it's obvious that Oda is inspired by it because of Dressrosa. You can start there, right? And then you see Zunisha, the next arc later, you know, in this elephant thing. Now I'm looking at this painting here, and we have a pomegranate, and then there is a fish, which is expelling a tiger, and then the tiger is grabbing a gun. The fish being Kaido, the tiger being Luffy, is that what we're saying? And then the gun being the world government making guns on Wano. I think we're diving a little too deep there. I don't think that Oda is necessarily looking into the messages of these paintings as much as he's looking at visual inspiration. So, what was her name? It started with a G. Well, anyway, when the art user turned Brook into a Salvador Dali painting. It's just the visual interpretation of it. We have Zunisha, which is brought about from a lot of different things, right? We have a literal elephant rock, that giant rock that looks like an elephant. The Salvador Dali painting shows what it could look like with its legs going underwater. But then there's even all of the stuff that's in, it's like Middle Eastern mythology and all of that. There's a lot of stuff with elephants. Indian mythology. A lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff. Let's see. My guy Ty's back. What's up, brother? Evil said, I gotta say, Randy is one of the most friendliest communities I've ever seen. Hello, everyone. This is me saying hi back. Yeah. Nah, we're definitely. Even though I've been talking about it, you know, we're gonna get a collab going for sure. Timing is everything, and I want to keep these to break weeks for the most part. So, let's see. All right. Lucy B said, everyone is spoiled using thumbnails. No need to be so upset. Who's upset? What's going on? Milo said we need more King of the Hill impressions. I don't know. You tell me what you want me to say. Let's see. All right. So, I mean, we had a... let's see here. Siddhartha said, Randy, do you think Akainu has a different type of connection with the Gorosei because in Marineford he was very eager to kill Luffy because he actually went to kill Luffy, but Ace jumped in the way? I think that Akainu follows absolute justice. He does whatever he's told or whatever he thinks lines up with the justice of the world government. I don't think he has a single thought of his own. I don't think he's trying to improve the world. I don't think that he's necessarily trying to ruin the world. He just follows orders. He's more than anybody, he's probably more like Lucci. Lucci is just there to get blood, to kill people. He doesn't have much thought of his own. So, you know, everybody's leaving Ohara. They have, you know, there's a bunch of civilians. And Akainu's like, I'm not going to let no. The whole point is to keep the history secret. If anybody on that ship knows that the history's there, that's it. They're gone. Guy starts walking away from the battle. It's just like, oh, you're weak. Lava. Right? And then you're going to tell me that he's the leader of Sword or something like that? You know, I see people say this all the time. He is not. All right? Especially because Kobe is a part of Sword. Kobe is not going to work in a secret organization for Akainu. Not after everything he's seen. Not after everything Akainu almost did. So, Akainu's got nothing to do with Sword. So his whole thing, Giola. Yeah, that's it. Akainu, his relationship with the Gorosei is probably more along the lines of, I'm the person who follows your, you know, all of your stuff to a T, but I still get no respect. Like, ugh. But he's going to be the guy that when we're up against the world government, and we're up against the Marines in the final war, he is the guy who's not going to shift. He's the one that he's going to stick it through to the end because that's the horse that he chose. He's going to be an example of stubbornness, right? Whereas someone like Smoker will be on our side. You know, someone like Kuzan will be on our side. Kobe will be on our side, right? The side that wants the world to have peace and unity. And Akainu is going to be leading the charge on the side of the Gorosei and everybody that wants to continue the same reign that they've had for 800 years. Barry Spitting said, Sword is actively working to undermine everything Akainu stands for. Yeah. Edward Evil. That's funny. Ty said, I want that Murphy Reverie. Chin said, collab with more female OP content creators. Well, I mean, just there's something coming this weekend, and it's not on this channel, but keep an eye out for news on that. Okay. Let's see. King J said, Randy, every user adds something to the fruit before passing on to the next user. Joyboy added gigantification to the fruit. Possibly, yeah. Second user, Nika, added Lunarian fire to the fruit. Luffy has multiple quirks now. Oh. There could be something to that. There could be something to that. But I still think that Luffy actually has Lunarian DNA. So. Let's see. Dizza said, Randy, collab with the YouTuber Chrissy Varley. She's blowing up. Definitely need to collab with Chrissy Varley. Definitely. Let's see. Chrissy's laughing. Yes, DK, you have your answer. Let's see. Lucy, he did. Yep. Let's see. Let's see. There's a guy Messy in here who's saying, what do I think about spoilers? Are spoilers out? Because I don't want to know anything. I don't read spoilers. I don't like spoilers. They said, why am I not talking about Luffy's fruit? Because we've talked about it ad nauseum, and I'm going to release a video hopefully tomorrow where I go into all of the foreshadowing of Luffy's fruit and really go in depth. But when Joyboy was here earlier, you know, we went into it at length. So you can catch the VOD later on and you'll get all of that. Is Smoker part of Sword? Looks like he would be. He's a prime candidate for Sword, but I do not think that he is in Sword based on the conversation that he has with Aokiji at the end of Punk Hazard. He says that you get a different view of everything when you're not in the Marines. So Aokiji is definitely a part of Sword. And I think that he would recruit Smoker. But at least at the time of Punk Hazard, Smoker was not a part of Sword, but could be the next time we see him, potentially. And, let's see. Jump in Japan will be off next week. Looking forward to next week too much. What? Let's see. Chrissy said that she and I theory for theory on the daily. We do. Yeah. Spoilers are on the verge of being released. Nothing official yet. All right. Well, I don't want them anyway. Milo said, what's the national treasure of Mary Joa? Can you answer that in the Hank Hill impression? Well, the national treasure of Mary Joyce is a hat. It's a straw hat. Don't know anything about the hat. Don't know nothing. Looks like a hat to me. Let's see. Momo Spittin said, nothing better than reading a new chapter 100% blind. So. Drek the Drek super chat and said, I'm eager to see how the Lunarians and the three sky races intertwine, if at all. Speaking of, could Usopp have beaten Page 1 with his impact dial? I mean, if Oda wanted to spend enough time on an Usopp versus Page 1 battle, I'm sure Usopp could have found a way to win. But the Lunarians and the three sky races, there's got to be something about it, right? Because they all have wings and all that. Maybe there is some sort of a tie. I mean, obviously, we've talked about the tie between Wiper and Calgara and King, Arbor, Albor, right? They all share the same sort of skin tone. They have the eye tattoos, you know, going full Mike Tyson. And, you know, there's definitely a possibility where it could be a situation where a lot of the Shandians are also descendants of, or, you know, like offshoots of Lunarians that may not have an affinity for fire, but, you know, they left the Red Line, their perch there, moved to Jaya, and like turned that into something. We just need more information. Yamil said, Randy, would you rather have an underworld arc or a moon arc? Well, I feel like we're going to have a moon arc, so I want to have my answer would be an underworld arc, since while it seems like it's possible, it's not as guaranteed as this moon thing. So Barry said that she has a sudden urge to procure some propane and propane accessories. Whoa! Let's see. Which flashback am I most interested in? Blackbeard or Dragon? Dragon. It Unidentified said, ideas on the propane fruit. Hank Hill drip. It's the finest way to get yourself a grilled steak, okay? But if anybody asks me for something well done, they're gonna get asked politely, yet firmly, to leave. King J said, me introducing my girlfriend in One Piece 2 years ago resulted in us theorizing 24/7 for the past 2 years. I wonder how Randy and Chrissy are. Couple being into One Piece has 99% chance of talking about One Piece always. There's at least like at least a couple of conversations each day, probably. You know, especially since, you know, we have the channels and stuff too. And you know, Chrissy's on Twitch now, twitch.tv/Chrissy Varley. She has her YouTube now. So, you know, people come, you know, to her Twitch, and, you know, this is the conversations that just keep going, especially after this chapter. Everybody wants to talk about everything in this. So, ooh, Chrissy made lunch. All right. Do I think Luffy has the Nika Nika no Mi? No, I think if his fruit has a different name, it is the Jushi Jushi no Mi, or the Sabao Sabao no Mi. All right, so we're talking resin fruit, which is an offshoot of rubber. It doesn't mean that he's not rubber anymore. Doesn't mean that it negates him fighting Enel and all of that. There's still, it's the natural rubber. Okay, so. Emil, yeah. Oven's got the propane fruit. Oven is the Hank Hill of One Piece for sure. Yep. No doubt about it. Yeah. Mama, I'm about to heat up Pound. Yeah. Mike said, Randy, are you in Europe because the live is perfect for Europe? No, I'm on the east coast of the United States. But we usually get a lot of Europeans in here. Heat on meat. Look, bro, he's got the heat on meat, bro. God dang it, he's got the heat on meat. What? I was just thinking, like, how did this turn into a Hank Hill thing? But then I remembered there's just so much talk about Texas today when Joyboy was here. So here's what I'm gonna do, guys. I'm gonna start wrapping the stream up. I'm going to take the full version of this stream, and we're going to that's going to go up on the second channel, right? But I'm going to take just the Joy Boy section itself, and that'll be a separate VOD on the main. So look out for that. All right. So if you wanted to go back and anything, and this stream magically disappears and everything, and you wanted to get the Joy Boy section, just stand by. I'm going to try and get that out, hopefully if I can export it and get it ready in the next couple of hours, it'll be out. And that's that. Yep. Let's see. Catching up with the chat before we wrap things up completely. Let's see. Do I think that pre-awakening Jushi has rubber hardened body as a default protection to help a user reach an awakening state? I think that when he's awakened, he'll really be able to manipulate essentially the durability of his fruit. So he'll be able to produce resin from himself, harden it, and his punches are going to be that much harder. Because he also can heat everything up, so it's going to be like as if you were making a statue, you were making a figure. You're going to mold it with the resin and all of that, and then you're going to heat it up, and then it's going to form, and then you would just need someone to paint it, right? And then if Usopp gets Kanjuro's fruit, then Luffy could have some real fun. Milo said, will Sanji surpass even his blue flames? I mean, if his flames are blue and white, I mean, it's kind of the top tier there. Ty said Chin Laughtail is definitely in Dallas. Oh, man. Oh boy, you guys were looking for the One Piece. I found it in Garland, Texas under a propane store a long time ago. The 1044 predictions. All right, I mean the spoilers are supposed to come out pretty soon. I do not want to see Luffy unless it's at the end of the chapter, and I only want to see Luffy if Kaido and Momonosuke have a significant conversation. So what we need in the next chapter is to sit in the dread of all of this. There's even a possibility that we get information from outside of Wano after all of this. But more than anything, I want to see Kaido continuing to be a menace on the live floor. I want to see someone stand up to him, whether that's Momonosuke, whether that's other members of the crew, whether that's Marco, Sanji getting back up, maybe, but that's probably like a next chapter thing, not 1044, but maybe 1045 or something. We need to see the reactions of the rest of the crew hearing that Luffy is dead, all right? And we also need an update on Zoro. So if we go back to Frankie, his reaction to Luffy being dead, dealing with Zoro potentially being dead, Robin and Brooke, how they might feel about all of this if they run into Schoolboy Collins. If we go right into Joy Boy, I feel like we're going to be skipping over a lot of really great things that can happen while Luffy's on Snake Way. While he's dead, he's figuring things out. He's coming back to life. There's a transformation happening. There's a metamorphosis. If Luffy comes right down, that tension is gone. So if he's going to come back at all, it's got to be the very last panel of the chapter where Kaido is going to seemingly kill Momonosuke, but that's when Luffy stops him. It's going to look bad for Momonosuke, and then Luffy or Joy Boy is going to step in. I mean, it could also be interesting if it is Luffy and he's not possessed by Joy Boy, see him like figuring out his power. You know, I did see something interesting. I did get a comment. You know, we were talking about the numbers thing and everything like that, like 10, 4, 3. Ju, Shi, San, Resin, Man, right? Ju, Shi is Resin, Ju is 10, Shi is 4, San is an honorific. So I love that. And the next chapter is Ju, Shi, Shi, right? If we're not calling it 1044, but we're calling it 1044. And so Luffy's laugh is she, she, right? So we could get Luffy in this chapter figuring out his powers and all of that if that's the purpose, right? We could get Luffy laugh. I think at some point we need to see Luffy laughing, I guess. But I don't want it until the end. I want more drama first. Yep. Let's see. Last look at the chat, and then I'm gonna go eat some lunch. Everybody's loving the impressions. It's funny. When do I think Onigashima will land on Wano? That's tough to say because it's also dependent on whether or not Oda has some sort of way for Luffy's power to help in this case. Whether it's shrinking Onigashima, whether it's coating it in resin so it bounces. I don't know. Let's see. How did Crocodile get his scar? He probably got cut with Whitebeard's glaive because he did. I'm pretty sure he legitimately said that Whitebeard is the one that gave him his scar. Who could have healed and stitched him? I don't know, but I'd love a Crocodile backstory. That's like above all backstories that have been asked in this stream. Like, which one would I want? Definitely my favorite villain in the series, Croco Boy. So, Munir said end of Act 3. We're not going to get the end of Act 3 until we've had a significant flashback. I truly believe in the structure of prologue, flashback, the raid, flashback, epilogue. So, yeah. We're going to get a pretty sizable Kaido and Rocks flashback, most likely. Unless we get a Joy Boy flashback, but I don't think we're that far into the end game where Zunisha starts to remember stuff, although it did kind of seem like that might happen too. I don't know. And yep. Chin said collab more with the OG4. Teching, Rogers Base, Sawyer, and Joy Boy. 3 down, 1 down, 3 to go. Oh, for sure. We're gonna get everybody on Theory for Theory. We got plenty of break weeks, plenty of things. It's a new series, but you know we're gonna do it. You know, just stay tuned for what's gonna happen on Sunday. You know, I don't want to be the one to announce it, so. But it's not going to be on this channel. And but Sawyer's that's a tough guy to reach. So I don't know if we'll ever get Sawyer for Theory, but you know, we'll see. And but I am going to really wrap things up. Yeah. Because we are now let's see, at 2.5 hours. So that's a good thing. That's a good time to stop. We're gonna stop. I want to thank everybody for coming for Theory. I want to thank everybody for chatting in the post stream thing. Again, this stream is going to be on the second channel. The Joy Boy section will be uploaded as a separate VOD on this channel. All right. So if you want to go back and you want to see that Joy Boy section, just, you know, you can watch it here. If it magically disappears, it's because it moved over, and you just gotta wait. All right. So thanks for the support, guys, and look out for the video that is going to come out hopefully tomorrow on all of the foreshadowing of resin in One Piece. I'm very excited for this. I feel very strongly about all of the findings that I've found, to the point where it made me go, like, this is it. I felt the same, you know, there's only a few theories where I've kind of sat and went, oh, and then like went to Chrissy and was like, this, and this, and then we're both there, like, so, and that's like Law and Sword, Thomas Kurozumi, and you know, how Vivi's gonna come back into the story, like that kind of stuff. So that's how I feel about this next, all these next discoveries. But a lot of the stuff we did talk about during the stream, but there are going to be other things, and it's easier to get all of that when you see the panels. So watch out for that. We've got a lot of content this weekend. Okay, we have this today, hopefully a video tomorrow if I can finish editing it, and then on Sunday there's going to be something else that is going to be announced. All right, so thanks everybody, and I will see you soon.